Hi, I'm Sarah from the Upcoming. A pleasure to have you here with us at the 81st Venice Film Festival. Perhaps you could just kick off with an introduction to Basileia for people who don't know anything about the film. What can they expect?
Well, Basileia is a film that is completely inspired by this area called Aspromonte, which is not only a backdrop, but it's also like the protagonist of the film. And it's here where like a man who's very passionate with his work, with his research, he's an archaeologist called the Irishman, goes to find some archaeological pieces and starts to dig. And with his helper, ends up unleashing some lethal, ethereal, and very mysterious creatures that will change the balance around them.
I just love how utterly unique the film feels, I guess, in its look and feel. It's sort of a genre mashup. Perhaps you could say it's a dark fairy tale, but there's like lots of other elements to it as well. What was your starting point then? Was it this area, and what sort of inspired you to tell the story in this way?
Like, there's no definition for the film. I wouldn't be able to find the genre. That's true. But the closest thing, what you said, the dark fairy tale, is very close to what I think it feels like, because it reminds me a lot of those old stories that grandparents and grandmothers used to tell us that didn't necessarily have a great ending or like a clear moral. The film is pretty much like that, and it's mysterious, and it stays mysterious, just like the nymphs.
In terms of creating the film, telling this story, I understand, you did it as a short first, and then were able to turn it into a feature. What was that process like for you?
Well, I was writing the script for the feature when I shot the short. The short was mostly like a test for me to see if I was actually able to do it, because Aspromonte, which literally means harsh mountain, is a very wild place. It's very difficult to have access to it, so I had to give it a try.
Obviously, what's crucial to the film is how connected to its location it is. It's not something that's a backdrop. It's very much intertwined. So that must have presented, like we say, challenges as well as opportunities. It really feels like you're shooting there in the fog, in the rugged forests, but also, collaborating with the locals, bringing that real sense of authenticity into the story. So what were some of the highlights and challenges?
Yeah, totally. Like, I feel like the Aspromonte is another of the protagonists of the film, just as the fog. And the settings are real. The most of the cast is real. They're like, I've spent so much time there. I've been living in Calabria for many years with Giorgio Scarpignano, who's also the producer. I've been spending a lot of time in Aspromonte, so I grew to build some very tight relationship with the locals, and they didn't even know they were gonna end up in the film. I told them just like a few weeks before we would start shooting, but they were down in the end because we had, built this relationship, we had trust, and so it's all very close to reality there, except for that like otherworldly that it comes more from my subconscious, that what I felt while being there. But it's still the Aspromonte that inspired me in that direction, because being there, you just sense it. It's clear that there's the force of nature has so much power that there's some mystical energies running through it.
And what I love about it as well is it does very seamlessly take us from, well, it's quite realistic. We're following the Irishman, he's digging, he's staying there in the forest. And then suddenly we find ourselves in this more supernatural realm. It feels like you must have had a lot of fun creating these incredible nymphs, genuinely very creepy, and some of the other striking visuals. I believe you even played all of them in the short, is that right?
Yeah.
How did you come up with this image, and what was so enjoyable about creating it?
I remember the day that we were just driving by through the woods, and I started seeing this image of feminine, ethereal beings through the trees, and because the trees were moving, and it just started like that from images. And Aspromonte helped me in creating so many images in my head. At some point, I just had to put them on a paper, you know, and then on film.
Did you enjoy playing them yourself, or
Well,
quite
I
nice
had
to hand that
play
baton over?
myself because it was so intense and kind of dangerous and like experimental that I had to do it. But for the future, we were well prepared, and so I could ask someone else that did a great job. Angela Fontana did an amazing job.
The way you do also mix, non-actors with actors, and particularly at the centre, Elliot playing the Irishman. I mean, it's quite funny to meet him in person. Actually, he's quite different from the character. I mean, obviously, a testament to his performance. But he really captures, this guy's very passionate, and you don't necessarily feel that he has malicious intent, but it's more the fact that he just feels privileged to take what he wants. So there's a real nuance to the character in that way. What was it like working with him?
Building the character of the Irishman, it's been a process that we basically did together because I had the structure, I know where this guy was going, what was his mission, what were his premises, but some of the characteristics were completely layered once we met each other. As I did for the other characters, that are almost all the characters are tailored around someone I knew, and when I started knowing him, we could work together in that sense, and he's been just so generous and sensitive that I am really glad we did it together.
And in terms of the takeaways from the film, I mean, people can sort of go along and just immerse themselves in this atmosphere, go along for the ride, with the supernatural elements. Or if they want to, you can sort of read into it on another layer. There is this social commentary running it through there, through the Irishman, sort of this idea that someone can come from outside and try and take what they want, but nature will put up a resistance. So what do you think you can take in that sense?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to tell about Aspromonte from another point of view that is not necessarily linked to the activity of mafia as it's been in the past. And Aspromonte has this strong roots in its past that it will never be fully changed, not even from gentrification, colonization, and the modern world. And I felt like that was a very interesting side of it that no one ever told. Symbolically, yes, Elliot's character comes there feeling entitled because of his passion and because of what he knows about the history, but he doesn't actually know the place.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that
Thank
with me.
you.
Huge congratulations. I was actually blown
Thank
away
you.
by the film. I'm really enjoyed presenting it here in Venice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.